On this episode of Still Loading, even the rocks do not recall. And it's the start of the summer of PlayStation 2. Hello everyone, and welcome to this new episode of Still Loading. My name is Josh Koval, the host of Still Loading, and this episode is kicking off the summer of PlayStation 2. So 20 years ago, the PlayStation 2 was released, and doesn't that make us all feel old? But before I go into explaining all that, let's see who we have here in the studio, for lack of a better term, today. So today we have both of my brothers here, Michael and Matthew. Michael?
Hello.
Matthew?
Howdy.
So, Michael, you've been on the show numerous times.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Sorry, I was just like, numerous? I guess, like twice, right?
No, more than that.
Really? More?
Definitely more.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Matthew,
Okay.
this is your first time on the...
Shitty.
You always remember your first time. But no, so we're talking about the PlayStation 2. So I figured this is actually a perfect episode to jump off on, not only because of the game we're talking about, but also because of having you guys on the show. Like, this is how we grew up. We all played the PS2 together.
Pretty much. That's what really got us into gaming.
Mm-hmm. And it kind of helped us bond a lot too, because we were definitely angry at each other. We weren't, like, compared to what other brothers, we were so tame.
Compared to other siblings in general.
I don't
we're
really
very
think
tame.
it was that we angry, though. I did annoy you guys a lot.
Yeah, you did. That's okay, though.
I now get that from Sam. So I mean.
We were also jerks, but...
Who's Sam?
But, well, like, Carly, my fiance...
Our cousin.
Yes, our cousin.
Oh.
Carly, my fiance, for those of you who are unaware, which is all of you, the stories she's told me about her siblings are terrifying, and they were awful to each other. It's like, oh, well, okay, then we were just,
What was the most we did? Fun fight?
I don't know, we'd smack each other once or twice when we got annoyed.
Yeah.
And
That'd be it.
And when Josh would beat up on me, and then you would get annoying, so I would take it out on you, and then you would just kind of, take it.
Fought back sometimes.
None of us ever really fought back, though. It was more like, because we would hurt, like, if I hurt one of you guys, I'd immediately apologize and feel so guilty about it. Also, not wanting to get in trouble.
Oh, well, of course.
Yeah, right.
And I would try to, like, make you laugh. Like, no, see, it's not bad. Ha, 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 funny dance, funny voice, funny face. You're fine.
Did I laugh?
Actually, yeah, you did. It worked most times.
surprised.
I didn't get in trouble.
I'm not surprised.
So let's talk about the PlayStation 2 first.
Yes.
So the summer of the PS2, just to kind of explain all of this. Like I said, it's the 20th anniversary, and I did an episode about a year-ish ago where I talked about what my favorite console of all time was. And I really wasn't sure. I did the episode literally as an exercise to figure out what is my favorite console, because I like most consoles equally. But I know there is ones that I like more than others, and I wasn't sure which I was. And it ended up coming down to the PS2. And truthfully, it still is, but I go through phases which ones I like more. But overall, it's the PS2. So I figured, especially the PS2 was the most important video game console of all time. I shouldn't say the most important, but one of, and it's the highest selling. So it kind of deserves this month-long extravaganza that I'm doing for this. So what the summer of PS2 is instead of doing my normal bi-weekly episodes every other week, I am going to go weekly for this entire summer and a little bit into the fall. And every week, I'm going to talk about a different PlayStation 2 game. And to start off the summer of PlayStation 2, and each game will be different. I'm trying not to include sequels. I'm trying to pick one game per series. And it will all culminate in the final episode before the release of the North American release, of the PlayStation 2. In fact, when this episode comes out, it would have already been out in Japan in March. It was actually released in Japan on March 4th, 2000, and it was released in North America on October 26th, 2000. So the final episode, which will be a full PS2 retrospective, will be will be Sunday, October 25th. So this first game we're talking about is near and dear to all of our hearts, and that is Jak and Daxter: The Precursor Legacy.
Great game.
And the reason I chose this, and you're going to see the next episode is something is similar to this as well, in the sense we've already done this. I've already done an episode on the Jak and Daxter series.
Right.
The next episode, I guess, kind of spoiling it, but who really cares, is the first Ratchet and Clank game.
Yes.
And I already did a Ratchet and Clank series, but one of the biggest series in the entirety of the PlayStation 2 is the Mascot Wars. Jak and Daxter, Ratchet and Clank, and Sly Cooper. So the first 3 episodes of the summer of PS2, it's going to be dedicated to one of each of these games. The first entry into each of these series. So this week is Jak and Daxter: The Precursor Legacy. Next week will be the original Ratchet and Clank, and the third week of the summer of PS2 will be Sly Cooper.
And I never properly played that one, and I've always been a little bummed about that.
Sly Cooper is really good.
I've heard
Sly
great
Cooper and the
things.
Thievius Raccoonus, I think, is the official title of the first one. It is a really good game. It holds up more than you think, but we're not here to talk about.
Yeah,
Sly
we're going to talk
Cooper.
about Jak.
So, Jak and Daxter. It was released on December 3rd, 2001. The director of the game is one of the co-founders of Naughty Dog, Jason Rubin, and the lead designer is Evan Wells, who is the current president of Naughty Dog.
Right, yep.
So, yeah, and I did a ton of research on this, and let's start from the very beginning. The first idea they had, when they were coming up with a concept for Jak and Daxter after Crash Bandicoot, the Crash Team Racing had wrapped, the first idea they had was they wanted a seamless world.
Yeah.
And a world that a world that had no load time, so it was super immersive. They wanted a day and night cycle. And so before there was any Jak and Daxter, before there was any concept of a story or characters, they wanted that aesthetic right there and then. Now, my question to lead off this conversation, do you think they nailed it? Do you think they achieved that aesthetic?
Oh, well, yeah.
Definitely.
I mean, it's...
You go from one area to the other. Unless you use the warp gate, there's no load time.
Yeah.
Even with the warp gate, the load times are not super long.
Yeah, I would say that's not even something you could debate. Like, it's there.
It's there.
They made a world that was seamless.
There's day and night.
It's the kind of thing... It's a math problem. Like, 2 + 2 = 4. There it is. Like, yes, you have a world and you go through it without issue.
There's no load times, like you said, unless there's the warp gates.
Yeah.
Then there's also the day and night cycle. Yeah, everything about their aesthetic they nailed. It's weird because as a kid, I don't think I was cognizant of how incredibly advanced that was for the time.
Yeah.
You didn't see that in video games back then.
No.
Yeah. Well, and I do remember us talking about because there were a whole crap ton of promos for Jak and Daxter like on TV at the time, and
Which I remember none of because I was like 4.
right, because you were very little. But I remember them talking about how you know how like when you're a kid, you'll hear like some kind of bit of information and then you latch onto that, just like, oh, this is a truth that I'm obsessed with now.
Yes.
Well, the one thing they talked about was how Jak, just the character of Jak, had more detail in his design than an entire screen of Crash.
Was that in the advertisements?
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
And I remember seeing that, and I was, well, I don't know, a 7, 8-year-old kid, 9-year-old kid, that blew my mind. It's like, that's so cool. Look at him. He's so well designed. He's so intricate. You know.
And then speaking of the design speaking of the design of Jak, we were just watching a Let's Play video with Jason Rubin and Tim Schafer. Tim Schafer is not part of Naughty Dog, but he is famous for making a lot of LucasArts games, and he now runs Double Fine Studios, which is an indie game studio.
I believe he's the founder of it.
He is, yeah. And the design of Jak was a design by committee, which was kind of interesting. So Daxter was a singular vision. It was it was an artist vision to create Daxter, both in terms of his character as, you know, what he did and how he spoke and that kind of thing, but also in the visual design. Jak was more of a combination of multiple think groups. They referenced specifically that his ears and face were very heavily influenced from the like Sony of Japan,
but Japanese anime.
Yeah, And Jason Rubin kind of lamented that it was a detriment to Jack's character that it was such a design by committee, because you lose that very clear focus of a character. And he was clear he still likes Jack as a design, but overall he thinks it could have been better if it wasn't for the fact that they were getting pulled 7 different ways between Sony of Europe, Sony of America, Sony of Japan, and then Naughty Dog's individual creative efforts leading up to it.
And I'm sure they had like their original designer who like made the original concept for Jack, and then things got poured on top of that, taken away, etc.
Like, no, you gotta change this. You gotta change this. This won't appeal to, I don't know.
And one of the things that they were really trying to push with it was they wanted their version of Super Mario 64. So when
I definitely noticed that when playing through it now that I'm older, it's definitely they would attempt at that 3D platforming style.
But when they were making Crash Bandicoot and they saw Super Mario 64, and I quote, they were floored by what they saw on the screen, which I still am confused by the definition of the word floored, because sometimes I think it means the person's angry, and other times it's excited or like enthused.
Floored is just any kind of flabbergasted in disbelief.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, there we go.
And I've usually seen it in a positive light. It's like floored, couldn't believe it. No
That's
way.
what I always thought too.
But also I've seen it where just like, and I was floored. I couldn't believe what they had done to me.
Yeah.
You know,
almost indignant about it.
Yeah,
Okay.
so
yeah, they were just blown away by what they were doing with Super Mario 64. They couldn't believe what they had done. So what Jason Rubin even said was that in an interview I was watching in preparation for this is that Mario is kind of like was like a toy box, and each level kind of it was a separate toy. They weren't really interconnected all that well.
Yeah.
It had the castle hub world, and you jumped into the paintings, but you didn't really have like
each
a
painting
big
with its own like
sandbox,
thing.
its own little toy box,
which had its own like gimmicks and things to play with.
So what they wanted to do was create their own version, but have it be a fully fledged world, which is where that whole aesthetic of no load time, seamless world, day and night cycle all comes from. And
well,
like we said, they achieved it.
Yeah, well, and I had watched some of those interviews you're talking about, and they definitely made it seem like that they had spent with Crash, because Crash was like revolutionary and great, but they spent a lot of time with him trying to play catch up with Nintendo and with Mario, and then with Jak and Daxter, they finally they caught up and got ahead.
And they set their goal was to set the standard
and
for
they
did.
platformers. Oh, 100%. 3D platformers were not the same after that. Like it was, and I can even see influences of Jak and Daxter and like Super Mario Odyssey, where it's much larger individual sandboxes for you to play with, but it's a lot more seamless. Like you still have to travel on the Odyssey spaceship to go.
Still the gimmicks.
Right, but I can see like a little bit of influence from that, even maybe not like a direct influence, but like tangentially as Jak and Daxter's ripple effects,
how it affected
the game industry as a whole. So let's talk about the story of the game. We kind of talked a little bit about the background, and there's other background stuff we're going to try to go into as we go through. And actually, before we talk about the story, one other cool thing in the development of it, just because we were talking about that Jack was designed as by committee type of thing, everyone in the company was allowed to, before the game had taken form, but when all they had was that aesthetic, they told everyone, draw what you think the world should be. Everyone in the company was encouraged to draw what the idea, like what you think the world we should make should be. And that kind of set everything up, so it allowed a very collaborative environment for the developers to make their game. And I think Naughty Dog still is very collaborative like that.
Well, and then, because, again, I saw the same video that you're referencing, and what's really neat is, as they're talking about that, they show different examples of what those things were, and you can see how each one of those interpretations of what the world might be found its way into a design of a different location of Jak and Daxter. Because there was one that was all lava-y looking, and that's very much similar
like
to
the lava
canyon.
tunnel, or the
the fire canyon,
Yeah.
and lava tunnel.
Lava tunnel.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Exactly.
The wet stages area.
Right. And then there were ones that had like a bunch of funky looking pillars that wound up becoming the precursor artifacts. But these funky looking pillars with leaves and whatnot and trees, and that became the forbidden jungle. And so all those different interpretations still found their way. They didn't just pick one. It's like, yes, this is our world now.
But they found a way to blend it where it felt natural. It didn't feel forced.
Exactly.
It's not. Everything felt like it kind of flowed together. Like the Forbidden Forest wasn't next to a volcano. It was next to the starting area where it kind of felt like.
Well, and it could. I mean, theoretically, you could still have it, but
Yeah.
it's not like the Forbidden Forest was next to an icy mountain.
Yeah.
It would be a better example. Because I've seen games that do that, and they try their best to kind of blend the assets together, but it always feels very disjointed.
It's like you're playing Minecraft.
Because then,
and you have a different. You walk into a different biome.
You're from a desert.
son of a bitch.
And the police are after me. God dang it.
Well, because then what? On the other end of the Fire Canyon, is that where the Blue Sage is?
Yes, that is the Blue Sage, and it's all water.
And it's all water, and it's rainy and misty, and it makes sense. It's like, it's separated by a mountain range.
Yeah.
So of course the weather would be different,
One side of the mountain would have a different weather than the other.
So let's use that talk about sages to kind of dive into the story of the game. So the overall story concept is Jak and his buddy Daxter are playing on an island, on Shadow Island. Shadow Mist? Misty Island.
Misty Island, there you go.
Misty Island.
Playing on Misty Island when they're not supposed to.
A little act of disobedience, as Samus
As old Samus
calls it.
Samus the Green Sage, he's the guy who, as you heard in the beginning, go, even the rocks do not recall. Such a weird delivery.
I love it.
But I have to say, like, how'd the Walks forget? Like, was it just that long ago that so much has happened?
I think so.
I think you're reading a little too much into it.
But I think the answer is yes.
Yeah, probably.
We'll go with that.
Yeah. Anyway.
So they go to Misty Island and they get attacked by one of the. He's not a lurker. What is that thing called?
I have
Oh no, he
no
is
idea.
a
Is
lurker.
it a bone lurker?
Yeah, it's like a different breed
We'll
of
call him a bone
lurker.
local for the
A
sake of
burker.
the thing.
A
Blurker.
burker, a blurker. So he tries to attack Jak, and they find a precursor artifact, and then he throws it at him, and it blows up, which knocks Daxter into this vat of dark eco. And we'll explain what eco is in a quick second, but when he gets shot back out, he's no longer a humanoid figure, because they're not humans; they're humanoids.
Well, they kind of like elves. Just have
Yeah,
long
they have these
noses.
really long, pointy ears. But he's this thing called an Otzel.
Yes.
And it basically looks like a weasel combined with a ferret type of
Pretty
thing.
much.
Well,
Are
Otzel
weasels and ferrets the same thing?
No, they're in the same family, but no. The name Otzel comes from otter and weasel.
Well, there we go.
I
But
didn't know that.
yeah,
Cool.
What is that dark ooze? Sure don't seem friendly.
He has like a Brooklyn accent, doesn't he?
Oh,
Kind of
yeah.
like a tinge of it.
Oh, Jack, where did they come from? Why did they build this crap?
I think does he say crud or crap?
Crap.
I could have said.
Why did they build this crap?
But yeah, so he gets knocked into it, turns into an Otzel, and then they go back to the sage of their village, the Green Sage, Samos the Sage, and he tells them, "Well, I know nothing about Dark Eco, but you know who might? The Dark Eco Sage who lives north, far to the north." Sorry, we played this a lot as kids.
We have to have played it like 20 times at
Probably.
least.
And this one here, Matt, he played the beginning of it just this morning. So I
Yeah.
just heard all this an hour
so
ago.
On mine.
So then you have to travel across the world to get to Gaul and Maya, the
Yes.
Dark Sage.
Galacaron, the sage.
And spoiler alert, you find out he's the villain all along.
Gasp.
Who would have
my
thought? It was cool because in the same behind the scenes thing we were watching, or the Let's Play with Tim Schafer we were watching, Jason Rubin also lamented that they didn't have a strong villain for the original Jak and Daxter, which I agree. Gaul and Maya aren't really strong villains. I thought
really
Maya
have-
was bizarrely suggestive for a kid's game. She's very chesty.
Yeah, I mean, so are all the women.
All the women in that. Are
You're
chesty.
right, yeah.
Particularly, Kira and then Maya.
Well, Kira's not chesty. She's
Well,
just
not
weird.
she's curvy, but
Yeah.
but
It is weird.
yeah. But I also didn't feel that. I didn't feel the absence of a good villain, you know, in that game.
That is true.
I think all the other stuff rose to the occasion enough where I didn't feel the absence.
Yeah, no,
of it.
it's just that
Gall and
Maya isn't a great
No, they're
villain.
not.
They're serviceable. They get the job done.
They'll literally show you have someone to fight.
I think that's why, like, when you get to Jak 2, Baron Praxis
yeah.
Praxis is a much better villain because
Yes.
he seems so unattainable to reach.
Well, and also
And he has legitimate reasons for what he's doing.
I was gonna say he's a complex villain. I'm gonna diverge for a second, but he's a complex villain, and he's really interesting, and I think that's probably something that they kind of picked up from their shortcomings or mistakes, if you will, in Jak and Daxter. It's like, okay, we did this, let's do it better this way. You know?
Yeah.
And then we got
Etc.
Errol.
Yeah. But that's Jak 2 and 3 and so on. But so they have to go north, and as they travel through the different parts of the world, they find the other sages. They find the blue sage. I forget. You actually do meet the sages, right?
No, you don't.
I don't remember that.
You meet them at the end. You meet
That's
yeah,
what
yeah.
it was. That's
You
what I
meet
thought.
all of them, yeah.
Because
You meet all of them at
they're
the
all
end.
captured.
Yeah,
that's
all
why the
captured.
port. So
Exactly.
Samos the sage is complaining that none of the other sages seem fit to turn their portal on, their end of the
Yeah.
portal on, or whatever. However, that exact phrase goes that he says.
Never seen fit to turn their ends on for quite a while.
That's what it is. And you find out why at the end is because Gall and Maya kidnapped them all.
Yeah. And, like, I do wonder if they've been, like, kidnapped for, like, this long period of time, or if they just haven't turned their ends on for a while, and then they got kidnapped. You know, I don't
Yeah.
know, but
Who knows?
who's to say? It's not made clear.
But so you go
The
through
end
each.
result's the same.
You go through each zone where the sages should live. So the first section after your area is the blue sages area, and you can the way the game is kind of laid out is that each zone has a hub village, and then there's individual levels, for lack of a better term, that you go into. And it's funny how they do very clever, like, loading time things. If you notice, like, every time you go to one of those areas, there's either a long tunnel or an elevator.
Yeah.
So that's how they kind of mask their loading times pretty efficiently as well.
Yeah.
Some of the things they also went into in the documentary was how bizarre they programmed the game. They talked about how they would bounce workloads off of different processors in the PS2, and sometimes even use the PS1 processor that was built in for backwards compatibility, but they weren't really supposed to use it.
Yep.
And when Mass Media Productions, the company that did the HD remakes for the PS3, went and took a look under the hood, they were just... it's kind of funny. I took a note of it. When you're watching that documentary, you see the anger behind their eyes over how frustrated they were, and not necessarily anger at Naughty Dog. I mean, maybe a little bit because they're the
Just
ones that made it.
frustration.
But pure frustration, and they're trying so hard to be gracious about it, but you can just tell they're just annoyed by how difficult it was to make it for them.
Well, you can tell they were
upscale
annoyed,
it.
but also very impressed as well, because the one of them said a Naughty Dog tried to get the most out of the PS2, and I would argue that they definitely did.
Yep.
You know, they squeezed it for all it was worth.
No, and they do consistently with every console. Every console they push the barrier. Even with their last PS3 game, Last of Us, that game still looks good. That game looks like, if it wasn't for its, I would say the anti-aliasing, because the PS3 kind of had bad like anti-aliasing. It would look like a PS4 game. So yeah, it's clear that they still continue to do that. And the story overall for the game, we pretty much went over it. I mean, there's not a lot to it.
Simple.
Now, what I do want to talk about real quick before we dive into our favorite levels, our favorite zones, our favorite areas that we play in, I did a little research from beforehand, like I said, and one of the things I found really interesting was the animation for this. They actually hired professional animators, where with Crash Bandicoot, the animators kind of had to learn on the job.
Yeah.
And the animator specifically for Jak and Daxter, his name was John Kim, And he added a lot of character into it. So when Jak would walk through water, he wouldn't just run through it like nothing happened. He would start waddling.
Lift up his feet.
He would lift up his feet. Daxter, while standing on Jak's shoulder, would start shivering because now he's cold from the water.
Yeah.
Well, and I was watching that same documentary, and as they're playing through it, you would hear them say, that's a John Kim touch.
Yeah. And John Kim, he was so, like, watching that documentary, you can see how much effort he put into the animations of the characters.
Yes.
He added a lot of small details. And the idea was that Jak should move differently in every single possible scenario that they could think of, or that they were able to do.
Yeah,
and
he'd have a
overall,
reaction for everything.
Exactly.
And they did good with that. Trying to remember all the reactions he had, but
Well, the inspiration, just in thinking of reactions, the inspiration for Daxter's animation was from Abu from Aladdin.
Yeah.
And it makes sense because of the way Daxter's animated. He's kind of that annoying little pest, and Abu kind of is that sidekick character.
yeah.
Well, and how he's constantly crawling around Jak and constantly
shoulder,
staying on his person in
void.
some kind of wacky way. And, yeah.
With their original design for how Daxter was going to interact with Jak, other than just being on his shoulder, was since Jak was designed to be a mute at first because they wanted the player to be able to project themselves onto the character.
Which I've never agreed with, but that's just
I can understand in a sense, but it doesn't always work. You're right.
Yeah. Well, and because for me, I've always just been a big fan of great stories and great characters. And to have the protagonist be silent always took me out of that.
Yeah.
A little bit. I felt they had no personality because, like, I'm supposed to project my personality onto them, but you do that anyway, regardless of the character. But you're too busy playing the game to really feel like that's you, because it's not you.
It's not.
You know.
It's different when the game is more customizable. I was playing Stardew Valley before you guys came over, and that game makes sense why you would project yourself onto it, because you literally customize their look, you customize their face, their clothes, male or female, you customize who you date in the game.
And in a game like that, you are cultivating a life. You are managing a life there. It's not like yes, there is technically, an ending to it per se, but you can keep going. It's more so this is a world that you're creating for yourself and living in, as opposed to a story you are playing through. And for that, it's a little harder to project yourself onto.
Yeah.
100%. When you try to have, it's the same problem that Zelda conquers it pretty well. It's difficult to have a strong narrative when you have a blank protagonist. So they made Jak mute for that reason. And Daxter, they made the sidekick just to be as zany as possible, as zany as he possibly could be. And because he could say all the random shit that he wanted to, they had an idea of, like, the player could just kick Daxter to get him to shut up.
That'd be hilarious if they kept that in the game.
I know, right? I kind of wish they would have, but we would be kicking him all the time.
All the time.
We wouldn't play the game. We just kicked Daxter all over the
Well, it'd
place.
still be fun, but it would be kind of... But you don't want to have to kick him because he's annoying. You want to kick him because maybe his reaction is funny, which is a weird thing to say. So, let's talk about our favorite zones then. The game has a lot of different places you can explore just in the first hub area, which is Sandover Village. You have the Forbidden Jungle. You have the beach, which I forget.
Sentinel Beach.
Then you also
Misty
have
Island.
Misty Island.
And there's the tutorial guide.
Actually, well, out of those three zones, not including, and maybe Sandoval Village is your favorite, but out of those three, including Sandoval Village, so four, I guess. Sandover, sorry. Sandoval is a county in a different state, in Arizona, I think.
Probably.
They're
Off topic.
It's from work.
I am Googling locations in Jak and Daxter right now. And I don't know why it's giving me Jak 2 locations. I want Jak and Daxter locations.
Between Sandover, Forbidden Jungle, Sentinel Beach, and Misty Island, in that specific zone, which is your favorite?
All right, so Sandover.
I'd have to go with Forbidden Jungle, personally.
Yeah, I think so.
Jungle. Then next would be Misty Island, but...
Oh, here we go.
Well, why is it your favorite, though?
I was going to get to that. Let's trying to think. Trying to put it into words. Just one. Forbidden has that little boss you fight, so that
The plant.
the plant boss.
Mm-hmm.
The things you kind of have to do just seem, I don't know, a bit more like they take. It feels like you're actually doing something. With Sentinel Beach, you literally just find power cells lying around in 2 places.
Yeah.
With it, there's that in the Forbidden Forest, but you have to risk swimming out to get it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a big risk.
But the one that's out there, you're talking about the one that's hidden in the cove, right?
Cove, and you
that one I would almost argue is a bigger risk than you would think, because up until that point, every bit in the water is swarming with sharks.
Dude,
or
is
the
so
lurker
scary.
shark.
Yeah, the lurker
Even
sharks.
now.
Yeah, even now.
The-
it's like,
Oh God.
That sound effect.
That.
Yeah.
Oh. I hate it. I love it and I hate it.
love
But
and hate it.
that one, I remember playing it for the first time was a huge risk because everything you have learned up to that point was the water's dangerous. Don't go in the water. There's stuff there.
Start swimming out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But so I remember just the first time I played that specific zone. I actually think I'm with you. Forbidden Jungle, I think, is my favorite
Of those
of those
But
3. I actually have the list as well. We'll go through it.
Yeah.
As do I.
So Michael, is Forbidden Jungle yours as well? Or?
I mean, of the ones you've listed, yes.
Yeah, we're going hub area
In
by hub
groups.
area.
Yeah,
So
yeah, okay, yeah.
the
So-
area outside of Sandover Village, that's my favorite
all
one.
at the start of the game. Yeah, I would say that's my favorite too. Only because it's just the most interesting. The jungle of that group is the most interesting. It's the prettiest, I think.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's cool to look at because the other most interesting one would be Misty Island, but
That's actually my least favorite.
yeah, well, see, and that's what I was about to say. It's one of the most interesting looking, but it's my least favorite just because I don't enjoy looking at it.
Yeah.
I don't like Misty Island because of the muse. You have to catch the artist muse.
Pardon my French. Fuck the muse. Fuck the muse.
That's actually not that bad now that I'm older, but when I started, that was the worst thing ever.
Oh God,
But-
that little golden asshole.
Out of context.
Phrasing.
No, so it's funny though because there's an element of that, but not nearly as annoying in the Forbidden Forest too. The Fisherman's Task.
Yeah.
And I was playing that tonight, and I don't know if it's because of the HT port where there's a little bit more input delay than there was on the PS2, but that is obnoxiously difficult.
It's really hard.
I actually found it really easy.
Yeah, but when you were a kid, you did.
When I was a kid, that was the hardest thing ever.
Yeah. I remember you got really good at it.
I thought I was too, and then when I played it this morning in preparation for this, I couldn't get past it for like 5 or
10 years since you played it.
I know, but I don't think my reflexes should have gotten that shitty.
No.
But you never know.
Well-
And the funny thing is, I played it this morning, and I only barely missed 11. I only missed 11 pounds of cats.
It took me about 5 or 6 attempts, and when I finally got it on the 6th attempt, I think I was about that to 11 pounds that I missed.
And then after you get it, you walk by, you see him like,
That laugh,
just laughing
the
for
whole
all
game,
eternity.
the whole game, he's just laughing it up. I was
Like, you
telling
could go all the way to the
Courtney
whole
about
thing.
that. My wife, for those who don't know, actually, she's going to be on an episode at some point. I don't know, not for the summer necessarily, but another episode. But anyway, she was on one before, but it was a game she never played before, and so. She didn't do good at it, but I think I didn't give her any favors with that one. So we're gonna pick a game that we both played. But I was telling her about it after I finished the Fisherman's Challenge, and he started laughing, and I looked at her and I went, "He's gonna do that for the rest of the game. Anytime you come back to this zone, he's still going to be standing there laughing his ass off." Like a moron.
You go all the way to Golem Maya Citadel, which is the last area, and then just teleport back to one of the warp games. Go to the Forbidden Forest. He's still gonna be there laughing.
Well, see, and then I just see that. I picture him laughing like that for all eternity, unable to stop, on the inside, crying his eyes out. Good Lord, I just want to breathe.
and then
Please.
and then he's finally happy when the metalheads show up.
Then he
Oh, yeah,
dies,
and
and
Jack
he finally
too.
gets a sweet release of death.
Oh my god.
And it's like, oh my god.
All right, we're moving on. That's
Anyway,
different.
shut up.
So to traverse from that first hub area to the second, you go
Yep.
through Fire Canyon. Now there's
Yeah.
there's three different areas like this. There's Fire Canyon, like the traversal thing, the
Right. Fire Canyon,
the
Mountain Pass.
like the tube, like the trail that leads from one hub area to another hub area. Like you said, Fire Canyon, Mountain Pass, and then Lava Tube.
Mm-hmm.
So out of those three, which one did you like the most? I know mine already. I can say it if you guys want to get a chance to think.
kind of like the lava tube, kind of like Fire Mountain.
God, I'm trying to remember.
Mountain Pass was a Mountain Pass I hate because of those stupid locals.
Oh, it's
flying
annoying.
locals that go. Shut up!
I think my favorite. I was going to say Mountain Pass, but then when you mentioned Lava Tube, I actually think it's Lava Tube because it's like a roller coaster.
Yeah, actually.
it's fun.
It's fun to do. It's difficult, but it's fun.
Yeah,
It's
it's
dude,
the fun kind of difficult. Not the Mountain Pass, which is just like just die, you stupid locals.
if my fiance lets me, I think I might play this when we get home.
Yeah.
You mean if she lets you?
No,
you
I-
just do it. I'm just kidding.
By that I mean if she
If you don't have
has-
any other plans.
If she
Yeah.
doesn't have any other plans for us.
Yeah. So, what do you guys all agree with me, or do you have?
I think so. Yeah, I'm with you.
Lava tunnel. Yeah.
So. Let's move on to the second area. You have Rock Village is the hub village.
Yeah.
I actually think that's my favorite village out of
I love
all
Rock
of the
Village.
villages. I like Sandover Village a lot, but I like Rock Village more because it's kind of got like this cool. Big main meeting house, almost for lack of a
Yeah,
term. It's
yeah.
a big
old
pavilion
hut.
type
Yeah,
of hut
yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Gazebo.
Because and lots of interest. You have the depressed soldier. You have a lot of that sad
giant
guy
buff soldier who's like,
Yeah.
who's just crying.
He's crying because he got his butt kicked. To be fair, that guy, the guy he fought was
Huge.
huge.
Yeah.
Huge. So the areas around it, you have the Lost Precursor City.
Yeah.
You have
Which
the
is so
Boggy
cool.
Swamp.
Yeah.
You have the Precursor Basin.
Yeah.
Right.
So
right.
my favorite is actually the Lost Precursor City.
Same.
But the Precursor Basin, I love the idea that
so
they
neat.
switched it up instead of being on foot like the rest of the
Yeah.
game.
on the-
You're on the speeder bike. You're on the
Zoomer.
the Zoomer, which is the same thing
grand
that you
Zoomer.
use to which is the same thing that you use to take from the mountain for all the other things, for Mountain Pass, for Fire Canyon,
Canyon,
for
yeah,
Lava Tube.
Yep.
So it was kind of cool that they had a zone that wasn't just a typical platformer where Jack would run and jump through it and do his spin kicks and punch, like thrust punches.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that basin. Don't we see that in Jak 2? I want to say we do.
We see something kind of like
or
it.
at least the forest is similar to it.
I
that part
hate those areas in Jak 2.
Yeah,
I love them
Not a fan.
visually. I hate them for the gameplay.
that's fair.
I don't know.
So
Yeah.
So what about you? So mine was a Lost Precursor City, but what about you guys?
I was just gonna say honestly, the Lost Precursor City. I loved its design. I thought it was really fun to play through. Like it was challenging, but not in the infuriating kind of way. Yeah, I loved that one.
What
So
about you,
much.
Matt?
Yeah. For me, it's actually a tie between that and Boggy Swamp. I actually kind of
Oh,
like
interesting.
Boggy Swamp.
I like Boggy Swamp in parts. I really like the platforming where it kind of goes on the classic 2D style, like this 2D style.
Yeah.
And then it's got the spinning like rods that Jack will jump onto and do like spins around, very gymnastic style spins, and you launch yourself from pole
Place
to
to
pole
place,
type
yeah.
of thing. And I really enjoy that. But then I hate the segments where the swamp rats come out and you have to they have a hive type
Yeah.
of thing in like a tree, and you have to keep killing them over and over and over again just to fight your way up to it. And it's not that it's necessarily difficult, it's just not fun. It's tedious more than it is fun.
Yeah, I see that. I still kind of like the. It's still a tie. Even with that, it's still a tie for me between that.
And I get that.
between that and what else? Sorry, I remember
the-
you said it. I just
Precursor City, the Sunken City.
the Sunken City. I'm with you, Mike. I think the Sunken City has a very cool art aesthetic. It's
visually. I will say the Sunken City definitely looks better.
Yeah, but remember Boggy Billy, the guy from the Boggy Swamp?
I didn't know that was his name.
That's his name.
Apparently, according to the
Billy.
Wikia.
What's
I
a
like-
bathtub?
Yeah. What's a bathtub? I forgot he said that.
Asshole.
Everything that don't sink into the seal swamp is mine. It's not how he says it, but
I mean, that's pretty close.
You got
but-
it down pretty good.
with his
the
exact,
swamp
his
was
exact
mine.
words.
God, this
his
guy.
accent.
Yeah. But,
All the characters in this world, we haven't even really talked about the ancillary characters.
Yeah.
each-
Jack's uncle?
which is
Never explained.
Never explained. He has an
stodgy
uncle.
British man.
Yeah.
He's like a guy who went off to fight in like.
on the old precursor orbs.
It sounds like he's a guy who went off to fight in like the Crimean War or something like
right.
that.
I was thinking more like
Twat.
fight in Africa. Or,
Yeah.
Yeah, right?
Conquest
He's-
of
Boer
Africa.
War. Or,
yeah, he's
He's
one of
in
those.
India.
He's one of those hunters.
Yeah.
He's such a weird dude.
What's that? The Fairly Odd Parents? It's like, yes, we British love that. It reminds us of the hunt.
That show is ridiculous.
It really was. But yeah,
then you have
one of those guys.
Then you have the greedy mayor.
Yeah.
greedy man.
He's a douche.
Yeah, who like I didn't notice it when the kid looking back now. It's like this guy's awful.
Yeah,
He's a terrible
awful.
mayor.
He's trying to rig the election so he stays a mayor of like 5 huts, but still.
five
More
huts.
power cells. That would
Yeah,
be great.
great.
Oh,
That would be-
a large contribution. Thank you.
He's so skeevy.
God,
Yeah.
he's
Which I mean, at least he's only the worst he's gonna do is be in charge of 5 huts.
Right. It's such a. I love how he's so hell bent on becoming the mayor again
You
when
don't see
his
any kids
town is
running
so
around.
tiny.
It's
don't
so
see any-
little.
I know they probably didn't have
So
kids running
little.
around just for they were like save based on time. It wasn't
Yeah,
because
yeah.
they didn't want to have,
Right.
but still,
Well,
it's still something
Yeah.
to notice.
So then in the next area where we were just at, where we were talking about our favorite zones, you have the soldier who's depressed as hell.
Yeah.
You have oh my god, you have
You have that one like I don't want to say he's almost like a con artist, but isn't really a con artist. The guy with the
Right.
guy in the barrel, like who made a bet,
Yes,
lost.
that's
It's
what
like,
it
now
was.
Oh, the
Suck it.
gambler.
the
Yeah.
gambler. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I'm stuck in this barrel.
There we go. Oh, yeah. Yeah, now I'm stuck in this barrel. Yeah, it's this guy with the glasses
Yeah.
and the hat.
I mean,
He does look like a con man though, because he's stuck in his barrel. He's stuck in a barrel, but at the same time, he doesn't look
looks
like.
a con. Like when you talk about like, oh, this guy's a kind of con man, but you never do anything that involves conning people.
Oh god. Well, see here we go. And the thing has a quote from him in relation to the depressed war. Is like, oh no, not another hero. I lost my shorts on this so-called hero's big fight against, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So he bet on the hero
He
to
bet on
feed
the
them.
hero winning.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's a gambler. So we go on to the third area, which is after you go through the mountain pass, you have the volcanic crater, which
Yeah.
isn't necessarily a town, but it's where the fire sage lives. He has his
Right.
hut in this
It's still the hot
precarious.
area,
I will actually say, while I like Rock Village more aesthetically, I like the concepts they have in the volcanic crater because
Same.
Yeah.
to get to your different zones, you have to ride mine carts to get over there, but you have to platform on top of these moving mine carts. So it's a little
Yeah.
challenging, but
Yeah.
not too much.
It's neat though.
They're
It's
slow
definitely
moving.
yeah.
But the areas in there
Which
you
ma-
have.
well,
sorry,
which-
go on.
Yeah, which makes getting on them easy, but waiting for to get there would pain.
The levels in this area, or the areas in this hub zone, is Snowy Mountain, Spider Cave, and actually that's
That's it. I think.
that's it. Snowy
Yeah.
Mountain and Spider Cave.
Mountain,
I actually like. Oh, that's actually a tough one. I think they're both really
They're
good.
both really good.
Spider Cave scared me a lot as a kid.
Same man.
Because there's that
Yeah.
there's that cave within the cave where there's hundreds of little spiders that show up out of nowhere and you have to run through without like
Yeah.
hatching all their eggs.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? It's
Yeah.
terrifying.
yeah.
And now I know to go to Snowy Mountain first so you can get the so you can get the yellow veins activated.
Oh yeah.
Right.
And there was cool
Eco
stuff.
veins.
So we didn't even talk about fucking eco.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Okay.
So-
Favorite areas then eco, maybe? Yeah.
So well, let's describe the eco now because we're
Yeah.
pretty much at the end of the areas
for the
anyway.
most part.
It's a tie between Spider Cave and Snowy Mountain.
I
They're both
think
really
so
good.
for me.
Yeah.
But there's
I'd say the
so
same for me.
the world of Jak and Daxter it revolves around eco. So eco is basically just earth energy, for lack of a better term, and it's the
Yeah.
different elements you have.
The life energy of the
The-
planet.
yeah.
I think is how Samos described it.
So the green eco is health.
Yeah,
Blue
it's
eco
life
is
space.
electricity or the
Motion.
motion as he calls it. The red eco is fire or destruction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then yellow eco is power. I think
Yeah.
is what it is.
Power
Which-
and projection.
something
You
like
shoot
that.
it out.
You shoot it out.
Yeah.
Like fire just gives you stronger melee attacks, but the
I
yellow.
also found out if you do, you can destroy those dark eco boxes with if you're powered up with red eco and you attack, you can destroy them without actually taking damage. I found that out.
Oh, good to know.
Good to know that 15 years later.
Yeah, right.
20
More
years
than
later,
almost
yeah.
20 years
Yeah,
later.
Almost.
19 years later
Yeah,
on the release
goodness.
of this. Well,
18.
18 and a half or whatever if you're
But,
being technical.
Yeah.
But
Pretty much 20 years at this point.
yeah, pretty much. So you have those 4 different ecos, and then you have dark eco, which they don't mention. They talk about it in the beginning, but you only really have those 4 ecos that you interact with because dark eco hurts you.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they then
Unless you're Daxter,
Unless
you
you're
turn
Dactyl.
into.
You're somehow Dactyl's the little only person we know of that touches dark eco and doesn't die right away.
And you find out later that spoiler alert for Jak 2 and 3. For those who have not played that, this is a big spoiler, so keep that in
Yeah.
mind. But Daxter and Otzel is actually in the image of a precursor. That's what the precursors
Which
look
I thought
like.
was a fun twist.
I did too,
in
actually.
3.
When you first hear that, when you first find that out and you don't know, you're just like,
Oh, it blew my mind.
And
Still funny thing
and
to
then
say.
this isn't a spoiler, but in Jak 2 and 3, I think in 3 you don't see light eco until the third one, right?
you don't really
Correct,
see it,
correct,
like,
yeah.
But there, which is
You
weird.
know it
'cause
exists because it was in the first one.
was light eco in the first one?
Oh, yeah, that's how you
White
beat the
eco.
boss.
Yeah. They
Oh,
combined the
Light
three.
Eco. It
the-
does exist.
the
That's
four-
what it was,
They
yeah.
combined the green, blue, red, and yellow eco, and that combined into white eco. And
Yeah.
for some reason that allowed you to one-shot the robot somehow.
It doesn't make sense either because when you combine
when you-
colors, it's never going to make white. It's only going to
No.
make black.
Yeah, it's gonna make black.
I think it's just the fact that
What?
it was
No, no.
all the ecos that
No,
weren't
no,
dark.
actually, it would make white. White on the light spectrum is all the colors hitting your eyes at once. Black is none of the colors hitting your eyes.
Well, I'm talking about when you combine colors. Like if you were to
But
take
you take
like a marker and you-
yeah,
Yeah.
it get darker.
Now-
Now get lighter.
Now, all that being said, I think their justification is just that it's all the ecos that weren't dark eco combining to
combining.
one will make the ultimate, anti-dark eco.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
And one of the cool things about this game that I thought, like, it is a collectathon in a sense. You have to collect precursor orbs. You have to
Right,
collect power cells. Those are pretty much. Oh, and scout flies, which
Scout
gives you
flies.
power
Yeah.
cells. But we won't go into what a scout fly is. So precursor orbs are just orbs that were left by the precursors, and
Yeah.
they're just scattered all throughout the world.
And they're used for money.
They're used for money,
Kinda
pretty
like
much.
how gold and silver was used back
Yes.
in ancient times.
And
today, kind of,
power
but-
cells are a lot more rare, and you use power cells. Basically, in the story of the game, they are also left by precursors, and they're used to power different things. Used to power vehicles, to power machinery, that kind of stuff.
Right.
And the purpose of gameplay is gatekeeping. It's meant to keep the
Yeah.
player at a certain location until they've mastered that location enough, or the previous locations enough to progress to the next area.
Right.
And what I was going to say, what I think is cool, is that it actually gives you some incentive to collect everything because you get a hidden ending if you collect all the precursor orbs and all the power cells.
Which I thought was so hard when I was a kid. Like, how am I supposed to do this?
Wait, I think you only need all the power cells. Do you need all the precursor orbs too for the secret ending? Or do you
know
just
if you
need
do.
all the power cells?
I think you just need all the power cells.
that's what it is. Because you need the 100 power cells in order to fill the
fill the
gate.
door, yeah.
To fill the gate or whatever.
But you can still, but it's still fun to collect all the
I
precursor
love
orbs.
precursors.
That's the final thing he said before
Yeah.
you. And if you didn't see that ending though, when Jak 2 hit, you'd be confused as shit.
So confused, yeah.
Oh yeah. And within Jak 2, it's like spoiler. Not gonna get into it too much, but how'd they get the thing they used to go back in time, back to into the shell that they got it from?
What?
No, because
How did they transport it, do you mean?
no. Because this is off tangent, but
That's fine.
yeah. But
It's Jak and Daxter.
Remember how in the end, Samus remarked that the time travel, the machine that the young Samus from Jak 2 uses to go into the past, is the same one that is used to come back to the future.
Wait, so is Samus the Samus in the Jak 1? Does he know that he's actually time traveled at that point?
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe so.
By the timeline, he would know he had
Yeah.
time travel.
Oh yes, because but without all the answers. Because I remember when all the metalheads flooded in at the top of Act 2. He says, "So this is how it happened."
Yeah. But that's what I'm thinking. But that's got me confused. The time trap machine was stored in that area, so he went through all the effort of going to the past, somehow getting it in there, and then you have to get 100 power cells to open it. How did he get it open the first time?
Well, it's a time loop. It's a paradox type of thing. Like it's the same thing in like the Terminator movies where have you guys seen the Terminator movies?
I know
Only
of it.
parts.
I know,
So
I know the basic stuff.
well, first off, big fucking disappointed
Yeah, I
in both
know.
of you.
I should
Come
see
on.
it.
But
Along with Predator.
the Predator's good, not as good. But anyway, so in Terminator 1, the whole premise is that this Terminator comes back in time to kill Sarah Connor because she is the one that leads the revolution that tries to fight the machines, and she's been very successful at it. In fact, they're about to defeat the machines, which is why they send this Terminator back in time to erase her from ever existing, so that way no one would ever come to create the Resistance. In response, the Resistance sends back this guy named Kyle Reese to go and protect her from the Terminator, because he not necessarily knows exactly how to kill it, but he knows what he's up against compared
Right.
to the citizens of the 80s.
Right.
And the reason they're even killing Sarah Connor is because her son John Connor is the Resistance leader, and he learned everything from her,
Right.
type of thing. So John sends Kyle back to protect his mother. Plot twist is that the guy that John Connor sends back, Kyle Reese, is his dad, actually. So he sleeps with his mother
shit.
when he goes back in time. She gets pregnant with John.
Right, I
John
remember now.
grows up knowing who Kyle Reese is before all this happens, and has to purposely send him back every time because he knows that Kyle Reese is his father.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's
This is
this
why time
weird.
travel was a headache.
Yeah, when you introduce time travel into narratives, it makes it infinitely more complex, because as soon as you change something, technically, if it just creates branching paths in time that you have to eventually somehow reconnect.
Yeah, so then...
I like the Dragon Ball Z, and this is also kind of the approach the Avengers take. It's just like the timelines branch off. They're there.
You at certain points you have to just kind of accept the fact that when you introduce time travel, if you want to do it well, you have to not make any mention of the other timelines,
Yeah,
and just kind of let the
Just-
suspension of disbelief go with that point.
But,
Back to the. What
yeah,
we
it's
were
more to
talking
our original point, though. What you said before, you're right. If you hadn't opened up that door, then the beginning of Jak 2 would be
Them just hurling through
a
space and
mystery
time.
to you.
Yeah.
But I think what they did do a good job of,
Doo-doo.
like yeah, the game ended, but like also, it made it clear that like, hey, I still haven't opened this thing.
Yeah, and
And it made it clear that like something will happen if you do. So most people, I assume, like us, wanted to find out what that was. So
And it was
damn it,
getting-
they got their power cells.
before we get on the tangent, I remember it being like, oh my god, I have to get all the power. I have to get all the power cells.
Yeah,
It's
right.
so hard. And then I played it fairly recently. It's been like a few months now since I fully played through the first one.
Did you play that PS4 copy that I
Yeah,
got?
the PS4 copy.
So you actually played through the whole thing?
Yeah,
Did it
played through
play
the whole
well
thing.
on the PS4?
Yeah, actually did. Played really
I
well.
wasn't sure. So I got a copy of it from Limited Run Games. Not a sponsor, but would love them to be a
Check 'em
sponsor.
out.
Check them out anyways.
But you know what? Hit me up. I'll shout you out some more often. But go on. So yeah, you played on the PS4.
Yeah, anyways. And it's like, oh my god, this is so easy to get all the power cells. It was really easy.
I think as an adult, you're able to strategize which ones to get in which order to make it not near. Like when I was playing here, I just got all the power cells in the Forbidden Jungle, and I'm 20 Precursor orbs shy, and I don't know where they're at. I don't feel like. And I've
But also, hindsight is very helpful.
Yeah. Yeah, when you know still remember where a lot of things are,
Yeah,
it definitely helps.
It definitely helps a lot.
'Cause
I think
like when I'd also played a bit before this. I got I'm just like get guys to walk done. You get that done right away, well, normally, but I got all of Forbidden Forest with the power cells and Precursor orbs, and Sentinel beats. On the hour before I came.
It doesn't take, once you know what you're doing. I will say, I guess we can start wrapping this up because we've talked about the story, we've talked about the gameplay, we've talked about the world building, we've talked about a lot of behind the scenes stuff, which was really cool. I guess what I want to do to kind of lead into our final topic with this is legacy and our personal connection to it. So for me to start off, I mean, obviously, legacy, I think, is actually kind of a silly question because it left a huge legacy. People still clamor for a Jak and Daxter sequel.
I want a Jak
20
4.
years later. Yeah,
I still want a Jak 4.
And it's
even with 3, even though 3 did a good job at wrapping up the series, in my opinion, I still want a 4.
yeah.
I want to see where it goes. There's still places it can go.
I think so. Legacy, it's cemented in video game history. It's just it's one of the best platformers of all time.
Yeah, definitely put it up there on the best of all time.
But for my personal connection to it, it was a game where it captured my imagination as a kid because I have vivid memories of going into the Forbidden Jungle and being absolutely terrified of the first enemy that pops in there, the snake that drops down, and it's from the trees, and it scared me so much as a kid, and just the whole world felt so real. It felt like a real experience, and it's hard for games to give me that experience again where I actually get nervous walking in, where it makes me like, and the same thing we were talking about before with the power cell hidden in the cove, and we were nervous to go swimming because of the lurker shark. Like, there's very few games that give me that sense of wonderment anymore. And this game really, it hits a sweet spot for me because it's right in that. It was right in that age range where I was old enough to remember more about the games than previous, but I was also still young enough where my suspension of disbelief, I was able to get completely immersed into this game.
Well, and that's what I was going to say. Like, the things that stick with me most are the ones that gave me a sense of wonder as a kid. And that's what, like, I... Like, just thinking forward, when I have kids someday, like, I hope there are going to be TV shows, games, materials like media of sorts to give them that sense of wonder. So things like Jak and Daxter, I mean, hell, even Power Rangers, like, I mean, much younger, but like gave me a sense of wonder. It's like, ooh, what's this world and all these different, you know.
What about you, Matt?
I'm picking it back off what you said, more than what you said with, like, back when I was younger, a lot of what I played through is like, oh my god, this is terrifying. I remember going to the underwater city was terrifying when I was a child because they had to hop over docks. And I was like, I don't want to fall into the water or get numb by the local shark.
Yeah.
That was terrifying. And now it's just like, up.
Dude, I really want to play this now when we get home. I really want to play it.
You should.
But for me personally, though, it was the first real game I got into. Yeah, I played games before though, but this was what got me into playing video games.
Yeah,
a lot like I do today.
Even like Crash Bandicoot gave me that sense of wonder too. That Yeah, I know. Like I remember, I take construction paper and tape it and fold it into the shape of those crystals. That was.
Did we do that?
I did.
I don't remember. I probably
You were not
also-
old enough.
You were
yeah.
like, you would have been like 3 or 4 when that.
But yeah.
Yeah, I think that's kind of its legacy and it's our personal impact for this series. For
Yeah.
not just this game, specifically this game. Jack 2 and 3 are also very good.
Well, and
I
the,
personally
Jack 2 and 3 I think holds up for their story. I
Yeah.
think Jack 1 has a more interesting world
yes.
Yeah.
in term visually.
visually.
Like, if you were to
Just
ask me
what
what
it is.
game was my favorite, I would say Jack 2.
Jack 2, definitely.
If I'm being honest, I adore that game. But
The
just in terms of the world and the creativity, yeah, 100%
Yeah.
Jak and Daxter.
the world of the first Jak and Daxter feels more alive.
100%.
yeah.
And I like Jack 2 and 3, but Jack 2, because they added guns to it, it made controls a lot more frustrating.
It
And
did,
also
it
the
did.
world was very bleak. I don't mind the post-apocalyptic, like depressing city, but the city's huge and you see a lot of it for a long time. So
Yeah, I get
visually gets depressing versus
Yeah.
emotionally. But anyway, so I think that's a good stopping point
Yeah.
then. I think that covers a lot of stuff that we would want to say about Jak and Daxter. I apologize to the audience. I fucked up a little bit with the audio at this first with some of the levels, so some of us might be a little bit quieter or a little too loud. So just kind of thank you for bearing with it up until this point.
Just turn the volume up
I know,
on your
right?
computer. It'll solve all your problems.
Well, no, because then I'm too loud and you're too soft. So
Just,
yeah,
back and forth.
it was.
Back and forth.
Thank you guys for joining me for this episode.
Yep,
this was a
absolutely.
lot of
Oh, yeah.
fun. So yeah, that kicks off the summer of PS2. This is going to be a good summer. There's a lot of games coming up that I'm excited to to release and to share with all of you. It's going to be a good time. Do you guys have anything you want to plug? Any social media or anything like that?
First off, find a PlayStation 2 somewhere. If you don't have one, go and play it.
Yeah.
Appreciate that system.
Or PS3 with the HD remake.
Or PS3 with the HD
Or if you
remake.
want to pay out the ass for the limited run games version on the PS4, once limited run games is done with their run, you can't buy it again. You have to get it through secondhand sellers like eBay, which is going to
Yeah.
be more expensive.
Yep.
Although I particularly meant to just appreciate the PS2 as a system. If you
Oh,
can
yeah.
play it,
100%.
by all means.
Oh, yeah.
But in terms of things to plug, well, if anyone feels so inclined, I am an actor and I post about all my various actory and life things, mostly on Instagram. So, Michael_A, as in the letter A, _ Kovel, Covel. That's my Instagram. If you want to follow me, by all means. I post very, very wholesome content.
And I mainly do artwork and story writing, mainly fan fiction. and
Do you have any places
Yes.
that people can find your work at?
yeah, you can go to DeviantArt, deviantart.com/ZmanXV.
Z-Man, Z-M-A-N, XV.
ZMANXV.
Yeah.
I thought of it when I was 10 and have kept it since.
Yep,
Pretty
makes
much.
sense.
I have a subscribe star. I don't remember the URL, but the link, all my other links are on my DeviantArt page.
All right.
So find my stuff from there.
And as usual, you can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at StillLoadingPod on all of them. You can also contact me at stillloadingcontact@gmail.com if you want to email me. Also, check out my website, stillloadingpodcast.com. If you want to support the show and you want to continue to help it grow, or you would like to see it continue to grow, you can also support me by donating to the Patreon. Even just $1 a month helps me grow the show. That is patreon.com/stillloadingpod. And check out all the members of the Podbeard Network, No Geeks Allowed, The Hotter Show, the network I'm a part of, podbeardnetwork.com. And that should do it. That is the first episode of the Summer of PS2. So, guys, thank you once again for joining me.
Thanks
Thank
for having
you.
us.
And I will see you all next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.